Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel.
What's up, everybody? This is Herschel from High School Top 200, and this is the Monday morning meeting. Welcome back once again. It's been a long week of trying to get things sussed and organized. I guess just in my own way, it's been a pretty hard out week, just like everybody else. I guess life is just life, and it just kind of goes without your permission, and then you just deal with it as it goes along. That's just kind of how it is. So if you're a young fella, just stay young for as long as you can, because being an adult sucks. I don't know, I thought about, been a happy week, I guess, in sports. Love that my Chiefs are winning, both the men's and the women's. Our women's are just killing everyone. Got a bit lazy in the end, I think, but I think that's kind of just like a growing with experience kind of thing. And I guess because a lot of them haven't been in professional sports for very long, you still need to get used to the fact that playing 80 minutes is playing 80 minutes, and doesn't matter how far ahead you are, like the other people on the other side of the field are also professionals, and they can also play at a level that you're playing at. So I guess that's kind of one of those things you learn. My Jazz won. Still moving up the hard ranks of the Western Conference. If you follow NBA, pretty hard conference. If you lose 2 games, you're falling almost 5 spots. And I guess we just have to try and finish in that 10 and try and play into the tournament, the play-in tournament, and we'll be fine. I guess. I mean, there's nothing really else you can do. I think there's 20... How many games left? No. Down to like the last 15 games or 10 games? Oh, I can't remember. But it's just one of those things that you can just go through, I guess, and just follow along and be a fan that you are, and keep the hope alive with whatever sports team you're in. I mean, if you're like me, you're pretty hard out loyal to your sports teams, just like I am. March Madness is coming up too. If you're a basketball fan of college basketball and all of that kind of stuff, and if you Charlize was also playing and winning the Pac-12, and Washington State pretty much defying all odds in terms of they're for and against, and definitely the TABs weren't really for them. I mean, both them and UCLA weren't really supposed to, being a 5 and a 7 seed within the Pac-12, which is 7 is kind of low as well, even just within the Pac-12, and that's really going to mess up a lot of bubbles in terms of March Madness coming up. But it's kind of just the way it is, and as long as Charlize keeps playing the way that she plays, and we'll be looking at probably our first WNBA player, and not our last, because we've got so many girls that are over there in the States playing basketball, which I'm so happy with. We've just got to get a lot more boys over there playing Division I basketball, and for all you basketball players out there as well, and all you parents that have kids in both basketball and rugby, going to the States is not a hard task at all, and it's not as far as we think it is. And we do have the talent, and we have the players, and we have the drive. We've just got to have the belief that we can also do it as well. And so for me, and sort of my message out to all of you guys, is that are all ballers and want to ultimately be there, because that's what you want to do, is just keep going. Also test the waters. Don't just have a look at it. Don't just look into it, but actually test it. Send emails, send footage. I was talking to a young basketball player who's here in New Zealand as well, and he wanted to see what it was about and see different ways he could go in terms of getting over to the States. He's kind of a young guy. He's a year 13, but he should be year 12 this year. And for me, my advice was, and this may also work for some of you guys too, is that if you want to go to the States, remember we're already late in terms of providing video footage, as well as being able to get your name out there within the States. So my advice, and this is also to all of you guys that are out there kind of looking for an avenue of how to do it. I personally would first figure out what your position is, and what you want to play over there. Then look at all the people, or all the teams over there that you want to play with, that you want to play for. Make sure that the teams that you want to play for are all state champion teams or contending teams for the next season. Make sure that they are going to be looked at by Ballers Life and ESPN and Max Preps and all those kind of websites out there that are like mine, that do rankings for players. And look at all the schools that are going to be competitive and that are going to compete. Also, make sure that, for example, if you are a point guard or if you're a shooting guard, make sure that the team that you are going to has a top-ranked basketball player within the country, not the state, but also just in the country. Make sure that if he's going to get on film, you are also going to get on film. My advice to this guy who was a guard and wanted to be a point guard, I said, well, if I was you, I would look at all the guys who are going to be the top-ranked guys for the next season. Find out where all the big power forwards and centers are, and be the point guard that passes them the ball. So that your highlight footage, his highlight footage is always going to have you in it. In terms of, like, if he's going to be seen, they're also going to see you passing the ball to him. Be the guy that passes him the ball and then get noticed that way. Make sure that you get noticed somehow noticed nationally, so that you can also be on the mixtapes that he's on and that you can also get noticed too. The idea of it is that you get nationally noticed or nationally just seen, and then statewide you're going to get asked questions about, and then you're also going to get seen in that way as well. So be seen nationally, be focused on stateside. It doesn't matter if you go to a D1 or D2 school. Even if you go to a D2 school and you only get D2 offers, you can still within the state transfer after 2 years, because that's kind of how it works out. And then even after your first freshman year, you have a really good season, the D1 from within that area is going to recruit you regardless, because they're going to want to have you on there if you have a really good freshman season. So plan for 4 years. You're not a one and done player trying to be a freshman going on to the NBA or anything like that, because remember, we're starting back a bit. So for all you pro player, basketball players that want to be pros and sort of looking at it from we're behind a bit, 2 steps to be recruited, to me, that's the way that I would do it. I know that they have their recruitment drives here in the country where these guys go around from America saying, we're from this and we have connections with this and this. And it's like, well, everybody has a connection. The connection is that we all have the internet. We all have highlights. We all have YouTubes. We all have the ability to Google schools and Google, sports directors, coaches, finding out who the coaches are for those schools, finding out what the emails are. We can all Dropbox a video footage of you playing your games here and sending it to them so that they can understand what you look like and what you can do on the court. All those kind of things, making sure that your presence that you want to put out there is one of a guy that can defend, lock down a ball handler, cut off passing lanes, cut off, drive lanes, taking charges, things like that is how you get discovered and how you get looked at by college coaches. All that stuff that you see on AAU basketball tournaments and stuff, that's all great, but that's all individual stuff. They don't really look at that kind of thing. They don't look at individual stuff, because in college ball, it's a team sport. It really is a team game. It's more, college ball is closer to international basketball than it is the NBA basketball. And so, and then there's that other argument of how more prepared NBA, international basketball players are in terms of the fundamentals of things rather than NBA players. That's why some NBA players they go over to Europe and they just can't play. They just, they really fail. But I mean, like, that's just my basketball spur of the moment rant of what I would do in terms of recruiting if you're a baller. And like, I'll depending on what my daughter is like, if that's what she wants to do, that's the same thing I would do for her too in terms of basketball. I mean, my wife's American anyway, so I'll just send them over to some cousins, but also aunties, uncles, and say, no, she's going to this school because I've already done my homework on them. I've talked to them and blah, 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 because we have the internet, and, you know, that's the way that I would do it. And I would only do it too if my daughter really loved it. You know, if my kids really love something, I would help them out with it. And I think that's like a different discussion too. I think that's a discussion that I think a lot of parents have to have, is that, and most of it is internal, and most of it should be based upon what your kid loves and what support they're actually looking for. I mean, being around rugby so much and being on the sidelines, I don't only watch the players, I also watch the crowd and the parents and the supporters that are there. And for the most part, it's good. But there's no doubt every single game that I've been to, there's always been a real dickhead on the sideline. And the things that they say to kids, and I'm not even talking about the parents talking to other parents, I'm talking about parents talking to kids on the field, is pretty bad. And the thing is like, sometimes I think parents think that they're part of the game. Like, I'm going to do my part for my team, and that's going to be trash talking that boy who's 16 years old on the field, and then I'm going to try and destroy his confidence, because as a full team, I am part of this team too, and so that's going to be my part, is to make sure that this boy has a bad game because I'm the parent on the side giving him a hard time, and then I'm going to go high five our coach and go, hey coach, I did my part. And it's such a strange mentality too, to have something like that, where you can go to a field, and I'm just saying field now because I'm just talking about rugby, but if you can go to a field or a court or, you know, I don't know, a cricket ground or whatever, and then trash talk, not just the players, because I don't even agree with that either. I'm not one of those guys that believes that you as a crowd can say whatever you want to that guy that's on the court or on the field, and then you be like, let's see what I said to him, and you can't do anything about it. Like, I'm one of those that's like, man, I hope that guy runs off the field and punches him in the head. I'm one of those guys that I wish that would happen, so that a lot of people can just be there for your team. Why do you have to trash talk? And then when I look at it from this point of view of like, we're all here watching schoolboys. And as protective as you are over your son, his dad's also on the other side protective of his son on the field that you are talking about. Which is like strange that, like, you think that they don't have parents on the other side of the field wearing the other guy's colors and waving their flags and, you know, wearing the scarves and beanies. Is like, do you want this to be an altercation that your boy is just like, man, my dad fights all the time? It's like, man, my mum was always yelling like that. And the thing is that I like mums that cheer for their boys and just cheer for their boys as loud as you want. I'm happy and I applaud that kind of stuff in terms of you just cheering for your boys. But don't tell your boys, go rip his head off. Or telling someone you're a thug. Oh, you're just a grub. Like, I remember this lady calling this boy a grub when he came sliding to the sideline, and she like bent down as the kid was standing up, and she goes, "You're just a grub." And I was thinking, jeepers, lady. If that mum was right next to you and she flipping whopped you in the face, I would probably laugh. Because you deserve it. You can't call kids grubs. Like, I don't understand how parents think that they have this right and authority to go, my son's on the field so I can do whatever I want to. And then also the other side of it go and think, is my son embarrassed about me saying these kind of things? Or, does my son even want me at my games anymore because I talk like this? Actually, that would be like a pretty good I wonder if you did ask all your boys on your teams, would you prefer your parents to be there or not? How many of them would actually say, nah, I don't want my parents there? Like if it was unanimous, anonymous, and being like, you can write whatever you want or send in whatever you want and go, no, and this is why. I wonder how many of them will be because of that, or they'll say yes, but I don't like it sometimes because they talk like this, they talk reckless. Because I'm like one of the best people in the world for minding my own business. Like I don't really talk and tell people how they should do things on the field. Like I don't come up to people, or I don't tell someone else's kid, hey, you should this, and this, and then you'll be a better player in terms of like, if that's my place, like if I'm doing this is just my opinion. If I'm just out at my daughter's basketball game, I don't go up to another kid that's from our team and goes, hey, you should do this, and this, because then you'll be better. Like, I don't do that kind of stuff. Like, I don't do those things where I just invite myself to give someone some criticism or some critique because you think that you know it better. Like I'm one of those that just leaves it to their parents. Like, your dad will tell you, or your mum will tell you, or if your dad comes and tells me to give my advice, then I'll do it. But I don't just go up and offer my services or anything like that. Like I just mind my own business. But some parents, and I've seen some parents out there try and tell other kids on the field what they're doing wrong and how they should do it. First off, they've got a coach. They've got a coach. Let the coach tell them. And parents' boundaries as well is like there's no bounds to it. They think they can tell players and coaches what to do, and then they go and have a chat to the sports director and the rugby director, and they go, hey, what you should be doing is blah, blah. I was like, oh, you didn't apply for this job, you didn't get it, so, mind your own business is what I would say to most people. But there are parents out there that think that they have that right to go and tell them what to do and expect them to change it just because you said. And they always do it in like a confronting way. Like it's never like hey, can I set up a meeting with you so I can talk to you about something? It's always like in a public place on the field when the boys have just lost the game, or while everyone's out there trying to do, like I've seen one at an Auckland game, and only Auckland teams do this, where they'll go up to their crowd and as a team, and I really like this, and they go up as a team in a line, they'll all take a knee, the captain will speak and thank everyone for coming, and then, give their supporters a clap. And I've only seen it in Auckland. If you do it in your area, I'm sorry, that whatever. But I'm just saying I did it in Auckland. I've seen one before, and at the same time as this team was doing that, there was a mum and a dad having a go at the rugby director while the captain was talking, and the boys were kind of like looking over like, bro, that's like your mum and dad having a go at this guy, and this guy's like kneeling and kind of looking over like this, and his mum and dad are like going hard at this guy who's the rugby director, and the guy was just standing there just going, hey, this is not the time, this is not the place, which he was right, it's not the time and the place, but they did it right there in front of all the supporters and the team taking a knee, thanking the supporters to come, and then these parents thought they should go up and give this guy, a bag of their thoughts. It's like, jeepers, man, like time and a place, man, like you have a kid who has to go to school and then kind of like explain to his friends, oh no, they don't really do this, like it's, like things like that. And I always feel sorry for the kids and always wonder how the kids feel in terms of those things, because we as parents, I mean, for the most part, I know all these parents think what they're doing is right and think what they're doing is good, but at the same time, for the most part, it really isn't. I think our part on the team is to just be supporters and just to be cheerers and just to be confidence boosters and show them that we love them at the end of the game. And however they did, what we say to them is nothing but positivity and encouragement until they ask you what they did wrong. And then you should share. And if they ask for your help, then give it. Because I've talked to a lot of kids where most of them already know what they've done is wrong. Most of them already know and are like really hard on themselves in terms of critiquing and making sure that, and trying to be real about their game. Some of them underplay themselves as well. That's where I think that our roles as parents should be more one of encouragement, because your son may have had a 5 out of 10 game, but he's thinking he's a 2. When we should be boosting him up to a 7, 8. And they're so hard on themselves, even if we don't mean to be like critical at that time. And I think all parents are like this as well. Like, we may say one thing and then our kids go off at us and take it to a whole nother level of disrespect, where we're going, bro, all I said was just let the pass go one more after you. And then they read it as, I never passed the ball. And I feel like it's I also think it's within our best interest that we just stay supporters. Let coaches be coaches. And if you do have a problem with the coach, meet with them one-on-one. And I feel like coaches have a responsibility as well to hear our parents one-on-one, to make sure that what they feel they need to express should be heard, because these are our sons and our daughters. And as much as coaches do have to coach and they've got their own worries, you also got the I guess, not just the safety, but the skill building and confidence building of our kids in your guys' hands. And so I feel like if a parent needs to be heard, coaches should give them that chance to be heard. And not just be so dismissive of it, knowing full well, and I think parents got to understand too, is that coaches hear the same concerns year after year. And because coaches have been doing it for so long, every parent has sort of the same worry as last year's parents. Making sure my kid gets more time. Is there more things my son can be doing? Why is he playing this position? Things like that. Is like the coaches hear that every single year from different parents. It's just different faces show up. They just all have the same argument. It's almost like a script that the parents the year before have. They just pass it to the next guys and go, oh, just read the same script. He's used to it. That's kind of like what it's like for a coach to come in contact with parents, is that they've heard it all before. So just make note of it that they're not trying to be dismissive. It's just a song on replay for them, kind of like. And they've heard it and they know how to deal with it. And I think, like them, they're also learning how to deal with kids in this day and age. And if you kids are watching this right now, you must understand and must know by now that the way that you guys act is way different from how we act and how we would talk to as kids. And so some of the parents that are rah-rah parents and some of the coaches that are rah-rah coaches that say, I don't care how you think and feel right now, I just need to run, you need to run those 10 hills. That's kind of how just we were spoken to. We weren't asked, do you want to? you were just told you have to. And your only question was, how fast do you want me to do it? Like, what time do I need to be under? It's kind of all we used to ask. And so, like, for you kids now, your parents and your coaches are all trying to figure out how you kids work and think and react and all that kind of stuff, because we were just different. We're just built different in the way that we were taught as kids, and it was pretty hard out at times. I mean, I was fortunate to have two beautiful coaches that had great spirits and that were great understanding men, and kind of got emotional. Peter Nordstrom and Lawrence Keogh, who have both passed on. But they were just great listeners. They were great coaches that were great listeners, and they loved the boys first, and then they tried to build us up as strong young men, and then they taught us how to play rugby. And they were so prepared in getting us ready that we knew that our whole training was going to be filled up with a learning experience from one drill to the next. And along with Brother Nordstrom and Brother Keogh, my dad was the other one that was on the side. Like, my dad's not like a coach by any means, but he also had the same standpoint where he loved the boys first. He made sure that what they were teaching us was to be strong young men that were going to be better, grown-ups and better fathers. And then they taught us how to play rugby. And I mean, if you were to put us into a category, I guess we would be like a St. Paul's Collegiate. That's kind of what our school was. We were a private school of 99.98% brown people. And 99% of those brown people were Maoris, and then a few Samoans and Tongans, and then we had a few Palangis, and that was kind of it. None of us were rich. None of us came from any kind of wealthy backgrounds or anything like that, but we were a private school for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, called Church College of New Zealand, and that's just how we were raised. We were raised and we were coached by coaches that I feel loved us first before anything else. Sometimes I feel like that's what we're missing in high school sometimes, is the care for the kids first. And I think sometimes, and I know that I always talk about it and always talk about these two guys, but Greg and Nigel from Hamilton Boys, whenever I look at them, it's not just aura. Like, they don't just have this aura about them, but at the same time, I can tell that they care about their kids. I can tell that they care about their players, and they have this expectation, not just expectation from them, but this expectation that they know that their boys can achieve. And I kind of see it, whenever I look at them, that's what I kind of see. Jono's the same down in Nelson College. Is like, whenever I see him and watch him, it's the same thing. Like, he's got that, he's got a love for the game, obviously, but it's about the boys. Hastings kind of have that same thing as well. Like, whenever I watch them, there's this different feeling about those kind of coaches. And when you get those coaching staffs together and they all work and they all have this common goal, and it's to make sure that the boys become better men and the boys know that they are loved and appreciated, I feel like they play a lot better. And I feel like they give you more as you would as a coach. They'll give you just more from that because of those known factors. Us parents, on the other hand, have to sort of give that same kind of reassurances in terms of like, we can't be coaches all the time. Sometimes parents just got to be parents. Doesn't matter how much you know about the sport, how much experience that you have. Sometimes a parent just needs to be a parent, and then the kid just needs you to be a parent, not a rugby coach or a rugby critic or, just that guy that's just a constant, feels like a constant nag of what he or she is doing wrong. And I feel like sometimes we lose our way as parents, but I feel like we should be old enough to snap ourselves back into it and go, oh shoot, I think I'm falling off the path a bit, and I just need to be a parent and just make sure that my kid knows that I love them first, which is kind of what we're here to do. And I don't know how, like some of you parents may be listening now and feel like I'm talking a whole bunch of BS, and that's fine, whatever. But if you're like one of those parents that have, kind of found yourselves being like that, just set a goal like your kids set a goal and go, well, I just got to be better at games. Maybe I should just hold my tongue, or maybe I should just cheer and that's it, and just be real mindful of how you cheer. Like, it doesn't matter how, hard out you are into winning. Sometimes winning's not what it is at the end of the day for some kids. Maybe that's not the goal for that kid, because maybe that kid's got something else on his mind that he just wants to be better at, and the winning comes after that. And if he's accomplished his goal and she's been able to feel good about herself at the end of that game, even despite the loss, I think we should cheer that on. Don't go, man, you had a really good game, but sucks you guys lost. It's like, how about you don't even bring up the loss? How about you just cheer them on what they did great? If they want to bring on the loss into the conversation, then talk about it. Other than that, just like, take the lead from your child and just go along with what they're saying. Because maybe that's all they want to hear. I feel like sometimes that's all they want to hear. And like I said before, I think they already know what stuff they've done bad. I think they already know where the weaknesses in their game. But they just want some reassurance that they're also, that their parent is looking for the great things that they're doing on the field or on the court or whatever. And I was thinking about this last year too, where I thought, actually last year was one of the better years. I don't know if I'm immune to like what that kind of stuff sounds like after doing it for so many years, but I thought last year was like a really good year for it. Like that, I didn't really hear that many. Maybe COVID had something to do with it, where we were just happy that all our kids are playing sports and stuff like that. I don't know, but I didn't hear it a lot like I have had in the other years. But I think as a team of parents, all of us, we all got to be just more cheerers than anything else. And this is just my observation from a sideline and from a person that doesn't really have any kind of, kids in this game to cheer for, anything like that. I even work on it when I watch my daughter play basketball. I don't know how to cheer for dancers because my other daughter's a dancer. If you've been to one of those dance things, it's like, it's almost like, go Whitney, go Rachel, go Utina, go Salah, go this. I was like, jeepers, how many goes are we going to have? And that's all you hear from screaming girls. Like, I don't even know how to cheer for them. I don't want to be there and say, go every single girl in their squad. You get so annoying. But at my girls' basketball game, I just cheer for her. Good shot, whether she gets it or not. Good pass, good defense. Didn't let them shoot. In basketball, you have to mark whoever has the same band as you, color band. Like, I do all that kind of stuff, and I don't say anything about the other team. I clap when the other team gets a goal, when they score or anything like that. And watching a bunch of 8-year-olds try their hardest, to me, is is such a cool thing to see. I love seeing little kids play sports and just give their heart out and wave to their parents during the game and doing cartwheels and stuff like that. I think it's so funny. But yeah, some of us just need to be parents. That's what I think it is. That's what I get out of it anyway. I feel like some of us just need to be parents and to be more mindful of our kids in terms of what they want too from us as parents, being there, going to watch. If you're going there to sport, then go to sport. If you're going there to coach the coach, then I think you should stay home. And I think you should stay home if you're going to threaten kids on the other field too. One thing I haven't seen is an actual fist fight of parents. I know that they've happened at games. Like I was one time I remember going to a game and there was like it was either under 16s or under 15s game, and there was like a parents punch up on the sideline. Ones where you see all the umbrellas and stuff like that. I thought, far out. There's like a whole bunch of proud parents jumping in the cars after this one. It's like, I don't know how you're going to explain it to your kids. It's like things I asked. I was like, all right, that's how you want to do it. I didn't think this was going to be a long podcast. I wanted to talk about parents and stuff, but I didn't know it was going to be this long. Quickly, I want to talk about, though, one thing I was looking at was, I think it was the amount of wingers that I think that we have this year. And like, you've got to be, and especially in New Zealand, we have wingers. Your wingers are almost like your centers. Your wingers are playing centers for your school because they're just the better athletes, kind of thing. But when our national scale, you tend to see who the wingers actually are. I think Kalis was probably the perfect example. Putuko, who's a centre for Hamilton Boys and then played on the wing for New Zealand secondary schools. And then I actually think that he's going to be a wing again this year for New Zealand secondary schools as well. But he's just kind of one of those type of guys where he's just a better off winger than he is a centre. And I started to think about all those guys that we have in the country, because there's kind of a lot of them. There's a bunch of them that are kind of like that too. I mean, Seal Cully is probably the other one as well. Whether he plays New Zealand secondary schools or not, I don't really know, because I know that he's signed with the Warriors, or he's playing for the Warriors in terms of their under-20s, I think it was, that he was playing in. And he's one of those kind of guys too. And I kind of had no doubt about Seal and what he can do from St. Paul's College up in Auckland. I kind of had this feeling that whatever he chooses, whether it's rugby or rugby league, I think that he's going to be one of those kids that we're just going to see on TV pretty soon after he finishes school, regardless of which one. And I think that there's a lot that goes into someone that's kind of like him too, because Maloney is the other one as well that I really like. What's his name? Kunawave, who's from Rotorua Boys. And Maloney is the other player as well that I think I think he's a fullback. He can play on the wing, but I think he's more a fullback. And he'll be the other kind of guy too, that whether he plays on the wing or at fullback, or whether he plays rugby or union, or rugby union or rugby league, he'll be another guy as well that I think is so talented that he's going to end up on our TV screens within the next 3 or 4 years, kind of thing, consistently. And so, like, guys like that are kind of, with Kalis and with Seal. Maloney's one. Josh Augustine's another one that I really like from Napier Boys. Dan Mycetti's another one from Fielding, who's kind of like Josh Augustine as well, where they're really tall kids. They're all kind of built like Sean Stevenson types, where they're all like 6'4", 6'3", tall, long, rangy kind of guys. What's his name from Wellington College? Sam Mills is like that as well, or Mayo, or Mio. I don't really know how he pronounces it, but he's kind of like one of those kind of type of guys too. And then you have like the smaller type, I guess you would say, because even though we do like some of those bigger wingers, Seal to me I think is probably our best winger in the country right now in terms of just pure wingers. But him and Kalis are pretty even though Kalis made the New Zealand secondary schools, I don't know which one is actually better, because I think Kalis has got the better footwork in terms of getting in and around players, being able to lose players, showing you different ways to get rid of players where he can run into them, but he can also take them on the inside and outside, and he's got a really strong fend. He's got a really good short kicking game and makes really good decisions. On the other hand, you got Seal, who's, because he's a league winger and he plays like that, his thing is pretty much straightforward. And this kind of makes me wish, and I understand why he plays for St. Paul's because he is a league player, but I kind of wish that he went to a school like Palmy Boys, or he went to like Scots College or Christchurch Boys High, or Otago or Hamilton Boys, or Hastings or something like that. If Seal went to one of those schools, we would see, I think we'd be able to see him do a lot more, because I actually think that he has a lot more skills to him, but because he relies so much on that power game, he just does it all the time because it just works, and so why change it? But I think because Auckland they all play that same way, he hasn't had the opportunity to switch his game up and show everybody else what he can do. Because in all honesty, I don't even know if he has a kicking game, but I know he can boot the hell out of the ball because I've seen him down at training when he came here for reps, and I was watching him and I was thinking, flipping now, he's smashing the hell out of this ball. I was thinking, I wonder how that actually works in games. Where he's actually tactically kicking, because I would like to see that from him. I'd like to see him show his short kicking game where he can grab her around, grab her inside and then run around and regather it. Most of his stuff is based on taking the hit, shredding players off, and then separating himself with a fend and keeping defenders off. And that's kind of how you're used to seeing him do it. I seen him do this big, massive run against the Chiefs up at Mags last year, and although it was good and powerful and it looked great, it didn't actually advance in the way that you think it would. And I feel like if he was playing on the Chiefs side, the Chiefs would have given him a lot more one-on-one. The Chiefs would have put him in a lot more into space. They would have given him a lot more opportunities to work off the ball and things like that, where I don't think Auckland Rugby... See, because I have this... I know, just from seeing how many Auckland players come out of Auckland and end up playing a lot better than they were in Auckland, and they end up making national rep sites. I feel like Auckland players, and this is to all you Auckland players, if you guys were to go to other schools outside of Auckland, you'll be a much better player. You'll learn a much different game than what you're used to, and you'll be able to show a lot more different things than what you would have if you stayed in Auckland. All Auckland coaches play the same. They all have the same dynamics. They don't change their team up because everyone wants to have the biggest, strongest team, and that's how everyone builds their teams, with the biggest, strongest players. Then you look at Hamilton Boys, who they don't have the biggest, strongest players ever, but they're just going to outwork you and out-fitness you, and then all that kind of stuff. And Hastings do the same thing, and Napier boys do the same thing, and sometimes you see Christchurch boys and Otago boys, they all come up and they do the same thing. Nelson College is the same way. They have the biggest pack, but their pack that they have, and the boys that they have that are the big boys, they utilize them in a different way and make sure that when they need that opportunity for big boys to be big boys, it is done in the right way and it is done in the right circumstances of the game. Now, this is not kind of a knock to Auckland coaches and blah, 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 whatever. I'm just saying that from my perspective of how I've seen Auckland rugby over the last 10 years of doing this, that's what I've seen. Is Auckland teams play similar to each other all the way through. Because you guys got all similar players to each other. And I think that if you took out a few of your best boys and sent them down to somewhere else, I think that they'll become better players. Because sometimes I feel like Auckland players become a cliche. And that's why when you see the different Auckland players, like when you see the smaller ones, when you see the skinnier ones, when you see, the ones that you don't think have that much impact, when they get the chance, what they bring is just different. It's just different, and it just works out because it's not the same as everybody else. Like wingers, like Frank Vainuku, who I really liked in the 7 scene as well, who should have a really big, massive year this year. Him and Andrew Nanson's probably the other one as well. They all should have like a really good year this year. All really good wingers, and to me, Andrew Nanson brings something different. He doesn't have the same style as wingers as Auckland is used to. That's why I think that he's a lot better, and why he's kind of one of those players to watch out for. There's a kid down in Landon Monks who's plays for Tauranga Boys. He plays fullback, short white fella, but he's speedy and gutsy, and he's committed. Once he sees his opportunity, he commits straight away, and he just gets away with it. Keone Albert from St. John's Hamilton is kind of that way as well. I think if you look at Langdon Monks, Keone Albert, and also Tavita Nofahu as well from St. Kennigan's, and I think you could put in Cash Farmer as well. Those kind of players all play the same kind of way, where once they commit, they change the game, and they get your team ahead up the field, and you can go from defense to offense pretty quickly. Rico Muliaina is kind of that way as well. I don't know if Rico is going to be playing first 5 or fullback, but if I was putting him at fullback, I would want that same kind of response from him too, is that once he gets the ball, just to go and just to read what he sees, and then trust that he is making the right decision at that same time. Joe Fatai is probably the other kind of guy too that I would look at as well, from Timaru Boys, who just this past year had a really good year starting. I think he started every single game at fullback, and if he keeps on the same path that he is, I think he's kind of like one of those players as well that can be like that. Zion Ford from Nelson was kind of like that too on the wing, is that he everything that he did, he highlighted in the way that he moved, and once he saw his opportunity, he took it and he made sure that what he did became a highlight in the game that their team benefited from. And if you watch like a lot of the games, that once he got the ball, he was either making a break, making a grubber, and then advancing his team after his movements. Even on the defensive side, he was kind of like that too. Another guy is what's his name from St. Thomas, the Fijian kid. Let me look it up. Meritino, that fella. Kalauba? I'm butchering your name, bro, but like he's another one as well. He's just like another one of those Fijians that is so highly talented, real tough, plays with a lot of aggression, and when he sees his opening, he just takes it. He'll just take it and he'll just go. Rota's kind of the same as well from Otago Boys. I think he's going to be playing first 5 though. Lafita, Rota Lafita. He's probably the other kid as well that's kind of like that from fullback, but he'd probably be moving to first 5. I'm not too sure what they're doing at Otago Boys in terms of him. Quinton Ryan is probably another one from Rosmini as well that's got that same kind of like ability and what you read, and you can be confident enough to go and take it, and then it works out for you somehow. I thought the other one from Christchurch Boys, Jack Ward, who's like a big winger. He's like real thick, like real heavy top, big shoulders, really quick, really good balance as well. Like I remember watching him in sevens as well. Like he kind of had that same kind of ability to stay upright and on his feet, and he would be able to, and he was able to take hits without losing his balance, and then find his stepping straight away and just kind of carry on. I mean, I remember he played winger a few times, but him and jeepers, what's his name? Hassel, the fella Hassel, Geordie, I think his name is, let me see, it's George or Geordie, something like that. I think it's Geordie Hassel, yeah. So if Jack Ward and Geordie Hassel go into the midfield, that would be a massive midfield for anybody to sort of counter or try and go against, because both of those guys are just solid heavy runners. But I mean, Jack would, if they try to put him on the wing, I don't think I'd have any doubt in terms of him working out. But a lot of wingers to choose from, a lot of fullbacks, and these are just the ones that I know off the top of my head, kind of thing, and that I was thinking about today of like guys that like I would like to see on the wing and see what these combinations about. And then we still have the year 12s coming through, and who will stand up or who would get out, that kind of stuff. But anyways, that's me, Herschel from High School Top 200. I can't wait to see everyone this season. I'm gonna start going to games soon. Later, ball.